Hello everyone, welcome back to Type 2 Reboot. My name is Scott Blinn. This week we'll see how my blood sugar numbers are doing, how eating even more calories in the past week has affected my weight stall, and answer a question about exercise. Is it even needed to reversing Type 2 diabetes? Let's jump into it. Before we get into my weekly update, I wanted to give another quick channel update. I mentioned in a past video that I was going to be having a lot going on in my life very soon with job hunting and eventually getting a new job and moving locations and everything that goes along with that. Well, I'm still deep into that process and I can already see how it's affecting my time and will be for a while. The more I thought about how to handle this time crunch, the more I think it would be a good idea for me to scale back on these weekly updates and move to a more monthly update model for now, at least until I'm settled into the new job and location. I think this will be fine though, because while in the past my initial phase of reversing my diabetes had a rapid change, more recently it's kind of small increments anyway, so I think a monthly update will be fine. Instead, what I hope to do is use any free time I do have in between the monthly updates to make what I call topic videos. These are something I've wanted to do on the channel for a while now and take a lot more time to put together, and so hopefully I can use some of the free time I'm freeing up from those weekly updates to do just that. At their heart, these topic videos are really just easy to understand educational videos I want to make around type 2 diabetes and reversing the disease. The first set of videos I plan to do is what I call an introduction to type 2 diabetes series that people can use when they've just recently been diagnosed with the disease and are confused and frustrated and overwhelmed by everything that goes along with that, to hopefully help them get through some of those hurdles and to educate them on what they can actually do to quickly reverse the disease like many of us have. Also, depending on the number of questions I receive over the month period, I may end up just doing dedicated Q&A videos instead of just tacking them on the end of these updates like I do now. So we'll see how that goes. I love talking about this stuff and learning from others. So if you do have any questions for me or even just feedback, please comment below. I really enjoy getting these comments and I read every single one and try to reply as quickly as I can. Lastly, I'll be posting my more day-to-day stuff on the Type 2 Reboot Instagram account. So if you're really interested in more frequent updates and what I'm up to and my thoughts, then that would be the place to go. All my social media links can be found in the video description below, as well as at the end of this video. All right, and with that, let's get to my weekly update. Once again, this week wasn't too eventful, but I see that as a good thing, really. My morning blood sugar average was just a bit lower than last week's at 119.7, but still a bit higher than my normal average. Oh, and speaking of morning blood sugars, I went over some interesting information around dawn phenomenon in episode 6 if you missed that. See the pop-up link at the top right of the video now if you're interested in learning more about that. My daily average this week was also just slightly lower than last week's at 108.2. One thing that I think is worth mentioning is that I've been eating more protein by a decent amount per day as I continue to eat more calories, and it's nice to see that doing so has not negatively affected my blood sugar levels at all. One thing that I kept seeing over and over again while researching a ketogenic diet for diabetics was that too much protein will spike your glucose levels some, but I've not ever really seen this in myself. Maybe once I get a continuous glucose monitor, I can better understand how protein affects me specifically. Anyway, speaking of eating more, let's take a look at my measurements for the week. My waist stayed the same this week as last week at 46.5 inches, and my weight was 250.8 pounds, so I lost just under a pound this week. Let's take a look at how I ate overall in the past week. Unlike last week, I was able to consistently eat more calories each day, averaging about 2,000 per day. As a reminder, I kind of failed the week before in hitting my calorie goals, averaging only 1,770 per day, so this put me up about 230 calories per day this week. So as you can see, I definitely started losing weight again by increasing the amount I ate each day. This really does seem to point towards a slowed metabolism from when I was eating less. I also think I'm going to go back to adding in full fasting days in my week, maybe 1 or 2 per week for now, as I really enjoy them and they are really good for improving insulin resistance long term. I'll be sure to keep my calorie counts high on my eating days, of course, and as always, I'll share how all that works out with you in my future updates. Okay, now for this week's questions. I only have one question this week, and it's one I see asked a lot from time to time, not only to me, but in a lot of the support groups. And that question is, do you have to exercise to be able to reverse type 2 diabetes? The answer to this one isn't really easy. Ultimately, the answer needs to be a big yes, And I'll dive into that and more in a minute. But I also want to tell you the answer is also a huge no, and don't even worry about exercising. Let me explain. There are many type 2 diabetics with compounded physical and metabolical issues that are intimidated and just outright scared off from even trying to get better because of the common misunderstanding that exercise is a key requirement. Well, exercise really is not a requirement to see great results, and I am living proof of that. I was unable to really do any exercising in the first 6 months of my journey, and on top of that, I worked from home and was very sedentary for that entire time. Even my most recent efforts into fitness have been very, very limited so far because of my physical health fell so far behind, and I suffered, and I still do, from diabetic neuropathy. That can be very painful at times, especially when I'm now beginning to heal and I get phantom pains as my myelin sheathing repairs and reestablishes the nerve connections. But I'm here to tell you that you absolutely can start reversing your type 2 diabetes without exercise. The real magic is in the kitchen. Even if that's all you can ever focus on, that is enough, and you should absolutely do that. Proper nutrition will take you very far and improve your health and disease dramatically for the better. Now, all of that said, I did say initially that exercise is important for reversing type 2 diabetes. And that is because exercise is really important to overall long-term health, and you should really make it a goal to implement into your life once you start feeling better, and to whatever extent you can. As I just mentioned when I first started my own journey, I didn't exercise at all. In fact, I just couldn't. I felt awful, exhausted, and in pain most of the time. But after 6 months of a clean ketogenic diet, losing 80 pounds, and getting off my insulin and other medications with their horrible side effects, I finally felt like I could at least start with some basic things like walking and some very simple strength training at home with resistance bands and a couple of dumbbells. So that's exactly what I'm starting to do now and has become my next focus in this journey. I know that it'll be slow going and there'll be plenty of setbacks, but I also know that progress takes time and that I'll eventually get to where I want to go. Now, and this is important, there is also a huge benefit from exercising when it comes to actually reversing type 2 diabetes, and that is muscle growth. While cardio is great for general health reasons, every single type 2 diabetic with controlled blood sugar through low-carb nutrition should try to build muscle as much as they can long-term. Without diving too deep into the science in today's video, we know that type 2 diabetics have insulin-resistant cells that prevent us from using the glucose that's in our blood. Well, some of the cells that use up glucose the best in our bodies are muscle cells. And building new insulin-sensitive muscle cells is one of the easiest and most effective ways we can improve our body's overall insulin sensitivity as we heal. And that reaps many other health benefits along the way as well. So, to recap the answer to the question, if you're not well enough to exercise, don't even worry about it. Focus on the low-carb nutrition and perfecting that. It's going to make a huge improvement in your type 2 diabetes control and overall health. Then, later, if you reach a point like I have recently, then you should look into starting at least basic exercise routine that includes building some muscle. I don't even care if it's going from 5 steps a day to 15. Just start where you can and then safely push yourself a little more every day to improve yourself long term. There are plenty of books and online resources to get started no matter your fitness level or physical abilities, so take advantage. We also know that mobility as we get older plays a big role in our lifespan and quality of life. So do what you can, it is going to help you in the long term. Well, that's going to finish this week's update. I hope this week's answer gives you at least a little encouragement to get started with making positive change. And if you can't exercise again, don't worry about it. It's easy to get overwhelmed by just overthinking the problem. Just start with one thing, nutrition in our case, and then grow from there as your body's ready for it. Have a great month, everyone, and I'll see you next month with another update. And again, all my social media links, as well as the video suggested by YouTube, are about to appear at the end of this video in a second. So I'll see you soon.